Thank you for joining us so early. Today, NATO Defense Ministers will meet, and they will address a wide range of issues, ranging from the mission in Afghanistan to full-spectrum deterrence, from fighting terrorism to cyber defense. Last month, NATO's heads of state and government took decisions to increase our role in the fight against terrorism and to improve burden sharing in our alliance. We are making progress on both. Since joining the global coalition to defeat ISIS in May, we have already increased the flight time for our AWACS surveillance aircraft supporting the coalition. And our senior civilian representative has taken up office in Baghdad. Here at the NATO headquarters, I have just appointed Rose Gottemoeller, my Deputy Secretary General, to coordinate the Alliance's efforts in the fight against terrorism. And within our intelligence division, a new terrorism intelligence cell is now operational. On burden sharing, I'm glad to say that we expect this will be the third consecutive year of accelerating defense spending increases across European allies and Canada, with a 4.3% real increase in defense spending. This means that over the last 3 years, European allies and Canada spent almost $46 billion more on defense. So this is a significant increase, which means that we are moving in the right direction when it comes to burden sharing and defense spending. Today we will discuss not only cash, but also capabilities and contributions to NATO missions and operations. And I expect we will make advances here as well. We will meet with the EU High Representative over lunch, as well as with the ministers from Finland and Sweden. Together we will address many different issues, and we will take stock of the deepening ties between NATO and the European Union, particularly when it comes to cyber defense and the fight against terrorism. We will also discuss how we take our cooperation further in the future. We will also address our strengthened deterrence and defense posture, and we welcome the fact that we are making progress both when it comes to our enhanced forward presence in the Baltic states and Poland, and we continue to strengthen our presence in the Black Sea region. We will end the day with a meeting of all nations contributing to our resolute support mission in Afghanistan. And we will discuss the future of NATO's presence in the country. Our military authorities have requested a few thousand more troops for the mission in Afghanistan. And today I can confirm that we will increase our presence in Afghanistan. 15 nations have already pledged additional contributions to the resolute support mission. And I look forward to further announcements from other nations. So we have a very full agenda for our meeting today, and with that I'm ready to take your questions.
Yes, please, gentleman over here.
From AFGHAN Media, Mr. Secretary General, what do you think sending more troops to Afghanistan will help Afghan security?
We have to put this into context and understand that this is about training, assisting and advising the Afghan forces. NATO has ended our combat operation in Afghanistan. So what we do now is not to conduct combat operations, but to help the Afghans fight and to help the Afghans take full responsibility for the security in their own country. We see a need for some more efforts, some more support from NATO to the Afghans, especially in 3 areas. In strengthening their special operation forces, we have seen that the special operation forces in Afghanistan has been very professional and very important in the fight against the Taliban, and we are now working on how we can further strengthen the special operation forces of the Afghan army. The second area where we want to do more is supporting the development of the Afghan air forces. Air forces are important both in the fight against terrorist groups and Taliban, but also for Medivac, for supporting the armed forces on the ground. And the third area where we are stepping up our efforts are when it comes to leadership, education of officers. So we're also going to do more when it comes to the different military academies. Again, this is not about turning back into a combat mission, but it's about adjusting, strengthening the train, assist and advise mission we have in Afghanistan, supporting and helping the Afghans.
Thank you. Robin from Reuters.
Also on Afghanistan, what do you need to know from Secretary Mattis? What would you like to hear from him today when you discuss Afghanistan? Thank you.
I don't expect any specific troop numbers, but I expect that we can exchange views, assess the situation in Afghanistan, and then look into how we together, all NATO allies, including the United States, of course, can strengthen and make sure that we have the sufficient number of troops in the NATO mission to continue to support the Afghans and to make sure that we are able to break the stalemate so we can make advances on the battlefield, which will then lay the ground for a political solution. Because it is a very close relationship with, between what's going on the battlefield and the possibility of reaching a political negotiated solution. We welcome that President Ghani has taken the initiative to a political process, the Kabul process, because we all agree that in the long run, what we need, the only sustainable and lasting solution in Afghanistan is a political and negotiated solution. And then, of course, we look forward to the final decisions by the US when it comes to the US troop contributions to our mission in Afghanistan.
We have time for one more question. Yes, please.
Mr. Stoltenberg, what could you say about the security situation in Baltic Sea? Are there any achievements in avoiding an accident with Russian and NATO planes there? Maybe usage there, some special technical devices to avoid it. Thank you.
What we see in the Baltic Sea is increased military activity, and we see it on land, at sea and in the air. And that just underlines the importance of transparency, predictability, to prevent incidents and accidents, and if they happen, to make sure that they don't spiral out of control and create really dangerous situations. That's the reason why NATO underscores the importance of respecting different arrangements, for instance, what we call the Vienna document, which requires transparency, predictability, but also international observations of military exercises. We are transparent when it comes to our exercises, and we call on Russia to be transparent on their exercises. We are also focused on the issue of air safety. And first, I would like to underline that the vast majority of the intercepts in the Baltic Sea region, or over the Baltic Sea, is or are done in a professional and safe manner on both sides. So I think it is important not to mix intercepts, which is a normal procedure to identify unidentified planes, with dangerous situations. To intercept planes is a normal activity. Some are conducted in a not professional and sometimes dangerous way. And therefore we are focused on how can we improve air safety over the Baltic Sea region. We welcome the initiative taken by Finland to convene meetings and a group of experts which encompasses Sweden, Finland, the Baltic states, NATO, and some other organizations and countries. So they are now sitting together, working on how we can develop better or improve the air safety over the Baltic region, which includes issues as the use of transponders, and also, of course, good airmanship, how to behave, how to make sure that when we have more military planes in the air, when we have more exercises, and when we have more intercepts, then it has to be done in a safe and a secure way. And that's exactly what this expert group is looking into. And I welcome the work of the group, and I look forward to the conclusions from the group.
Good morning. Well, together with Secretary General Stoltenberg, we will present, he presents to the defense ministers of the allies our joint report that I presented to the defense ministers of the European Union last week on 42 operational actions we have taken together in this last 6-7 months. Cooperation between the European Union and NATO has never been so strong, so deep, and so expanded in all fields, from hybrid threats to cyber security to maritime cooperation. And we are going to have, for the first time ever, in autumn, a first parallel exercise between NATO and the European Union. So at the same time, we are also exploring to a level that was never tested before, the European Union internal security and defense work. And this shows that the two things go hand in hand. The European Union believes enormously in the capacity of NATO to guarantee security in a broader sense, also for Europe. And we are ready to contribute to our collective global security with the European Union that is stronger on defense and security than ever before. This is an excellent work we've done together, and we will also look forward because in December we will present the further report with also some new ideas for cooperation. So it will be a good opportunity to discuss this with the ministers and take this work forward in a very constructive way. Really, in the history of the two institutions, never there has been a moment like this with such a strong, solid and cooperative approach, very concrete, very operational. So we're looking forward to continue this work.
On the issue of NATO-EU cooperation, are you open to a joint trip to the Balkans with you and Secretary Stoltenberg? Do you think that that could advance security and stability in the region if the two of you went on sort of a joint mission?
We are already coordinating very strongly on different messages that we're sending, including in the Western Balkans. You might remember during my last visit to the region, I was visiting the 6 partners we have in the Western Balkans, and in some of them I was passing a message also clearly on behalf of Secretary General Stoltenberg, because we discussed the situation on the ground beforehand and we agreed common lines. We are ready to have joint trips and visits. This can be in the Balkans, this can be elsewhere. We are currently planning. We have both complicated agendas, as you can imagine, but we are looking at possibilities to have a joint visit, not necessarily in the Balkans to start with, in autumn. And again, the contacts are weekly contacts, not only between the two of us, which counts a lot, but also I have to say I see an unprecedented level of work done at staff level in a coordinated manner. Really, I think we are an era away from the past where there was sometimes a certain difficulty in working together. I would say that now cooperation is the norm, and it's working very well.
More than 30 Georgian NGOs sent a letter to you about concerning about the changes in our constitution. Did you receive this letter? And in general, what do you think? Does such kind of changes need consensus with opposition, with civil society, and with Georgian people also?
It's not going to be something we discuss here with NATO, I'm sorry.
Later today, NATO will discuss Afghanistan. I wondered, how are efforts progressing on peace talks that I understand you, as the High Rep, are trying to mediate?
No, we're not trying to mediate direct talks in Afghanistan, but we have hosted 6 months ago in Brussels a huge international conference on Afghanistan. where I also took the chance to gather the main international players and regional players from China to Pakistan and the United States, obviously the United Nations, and the Afghans as well, and others. We are aiming at supporting a regional effort with an Afghan ownership. We're discussing this with our partners in Afghanistan, and we are continuing to do so. Perspectives are, as always, difficult, but I see a committed leadership. I see a country that is ready to turn the page and that needs all the international and regional support. And I see also regional partners that are ready to engage, to support this process, because I think everybody realizes that peace and security in Afghanistan and development in Afghanistan is something good also for all the countries in the region. So I'm not too negative on the political perspectives, but there's a lot of work to be done. And the European Union is in a support mode, active, very active support mode in this respect. I will meet all our Asian partners in August in the Asia Regional Forum in the Philippines, and that might be an opportunity to discuss this further as well.
I promised to come back, and I am back. Today I'm announcing that the Royal Navy will be leading NATO forces from next week in the Mediterranean, in the Aegean, and in the Black Sea. We are stepping up our commitment to NATO. I will also be confirming today that to help fight terror, we will be increasing our support to Afghanistan. We will be sending just under 100 additional troops in non-combat roles to support the Afghan army and police in their fight against the Taliban. Finally, today marks the 3rd anniversary of the caliphate proclaimed in Iraq and Syria. But today, that caliphate is facing defeat in Iraq. Some 4 million people have now been freed from Daesh rule, and we remain committed to ensuring that Daesh is driven out of Iraq and finally defeated in Syria. Thank you.
Secretary, over the years, NATO has been winding down in Afghanistan. Why do we need to ramp up right now? Why is it important?
Well, it's important to continue to support the democratic government of Afghanistan. We're in it for the long haul. It's a democracy that's asked for our help, and it's important that Europe responds. The transnational terror groups that operate in Afghanistan are a threat to us in Western Europe and are a threat to the continued existence of the Afghan state. So we have every incentive in staying the course and continuing to support Afghan forces. And the additional troops that we are announcing today, just under 100, will continue in non-combat roles to reinforce the Afghan security forces.
Why do you believe that a couple of thousand extra troops could make the difference in Afghanistan?
Well, it's important to assist the Afghan forces. They had a tough fighting season last year. They face continuing challenges in some of the districts of Afghanistan. And it's important we continue the support roles that we've been playing ever since we withdrew our combat troops in the autumn of 2014. We continue to train, to instruct on counter-terrorism, and to help protect security in Kabul.
Defense spending has NATO turned the corner? Are you satisfied with the numbers that you're seeing? Apparently 4.3% rise from European Canadian allies?
We're now beginning to see more and more NATO countries responding to the President's call and answering the commitment we all made at the Wales Summit nearly 3 years ago. We spend 2%, and it's encouraging now to see other countries beginning to at least increase their budgets annually and to start to commit to reaching the 2% by a specific year. And we've seen encouraging progress, for example, from Canada in its recent defense strategy.
Mr. Minister, there is a problem between the United States of America and Turkey. about the weapons for the Kurdish organization in Syria. Do you think that the solution for the problem must be in the NATO of both countries must be fund solution?
Sorry, I missed the last bit.
The solution must be in NATO or must be the two countries fund solution for this problem between Turkey and the United States of America?
Well, in Syria, we want to see a political settlement that satisfies the hopes of the Syrian opposition, but also respects the sensitivities of the neighbours like Turkey and Jordan. Thank you very much.
For NATO to step up and do more?
No, one of the things that I think every nation's talked about, the importance of have greater defense spending. Canada, we started our defense policy review right after our government got elected. It is an important assessment that we did to making sure that we had the right defense investment and for our Canadian Armed Forces to meet our commitments. The defense policy now provides the Canadian Armed Forces with predictable, sustainable, and increased funding for the next 20 years, and making sure that we have all the right capabilities. But more importantly, in the defense policy is our ironclad, Canada's ironclad commitment to NATO, which also we've now demonstrated as a leading one of the framework nations. And I got to visit Latvia just last week, where I got to see the multinational battle group coming together. It was very impressive to watch. And then this is the thing that when it comes to our defense policy and making sure that we have all the right resources so we can sustain these commitments. Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon. I think then we are ready to start. At our summit in Warsaw, we decided to strengthen our defense and deterrence. A year later, we have fully implemented our increased presence in the Baltics, Poland, and the Black Sea region. NATO is also stepping up in the fight against terrorism to ensure our plans are implemented swiftly and efficiently. I have appointed my Deputy Secretary General, Rose Gottemoeller, to coordinate our counter-terrorism efforts. In this session, we will take stock of our progress on land, at sea, in the air, and in cyberspace. And we will discuss our plans for the future. This ends the public part of this meeting. Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of Rescue Support Mission in Afghanistan. It has been more than 2 years since the Afghan security forces took full responsibility for their country's security. Despite the challenges presented by a brutal enemy, they have performed with great professionalism, bravely defending their country and the Afghan people. Our Rescue Support Mission is an essential contribution to the fight against terrorism. Around 13,000 troops from NATO and partner countries are in Afghanistan, training the Afghan forces and helping to ensure Afghanistan never again becomes a safe haven for international terrorists. The situation there remains challenging, but we are making important progress. Each day, the Afghan forces become more effective. Today, we will discuss the path forward in Afghanistan, including our future troop levels. That concludes the public part of this meeting.
Thank you very much and a warm welcome everyone to
Merci
the
et
signing ceremony
bienvenue à
of the Land
cette,
Battle Decisive
cérémonie de
Munitions
signature
project.
pour
Today,
le
11
projet
allies and one
de
partner
munitions
nation,
terrestres
Finland,
tactiquement
are
décisives,
declaring their
LBDM.
intentions to cooperate in
Aujourd'hui,
providing what we
11
call
alliés et un pays
Land Battle
partenaire
Decisive
déclarent leur
Munitions,
intention
or
de coopérer
LBDM.
dans la
The
fourniture de
fact
ce que
that you
nous
have decided
appelons
to come together to launch this
CLBDM.
framework
Le
at the
fait que
level of
vous ayez
defense
décidé de vous
ministers is a
réunir pour
powerful
lancer
symbol.
ce cadre au
It
niveau des
recognizes the
ministres de la
importance of
Défense est un
acquiring
geste
such munitions
symbolique
for NATO
fort.
to meet its goals
Cela
and
démontre tout
objectives.
d'abord que
And it
quand
shows the value
il
and
s'agit de
importance
ces
of
munitions,
thinking
les pays représentés dans cette
about
salle ont des
such
besoins
issues when our troops
significatifs.
already
Deuxièmement,
train together,
cela permet de
fight
reconnaître
together,
l'importance
and
d'acquérir de telles
increasingly use the
munitions pour
same
l'OTAN
equipment.
afin que l'OTAN
I
réponde à
anticipate
ses
that this
objectifs.
initiative will help
Et
us to
puis,
lower
cela montre la
costs
valeur et
associated
l'importance
with
de la
acquiring the
réflexion en
munitions that we
coopération
need.
sur de tels problèmes
I
lorsque nos troupes
but it will also
s'entraînent,
increase our
combattent
ability to share and
ensemble et de
interchange
plus en
those
plus
munitions
utilisent le même
and therefore
équipement.
operate
Je
together
pense que
more
cette initiative
smoothly
nous
and
aidera à
effectively.
réduire les coûts
So today
associés
is
de
an
l'acquisition
important
de
step
munitions.
toward creating
Et
the
cela
flexible, robust, and cost-effective
permettra de
munitions
nous rendre plus
stockpile the
capables de
alliance needs.
partager et
And I want to
d'interchanger ces
congratulate
munitions. Alors
once
c'est
again
une étape
those countries
importante
here today
pour
who are
avoir
participating
des
in this
stocks de
important
munitions
project.
flexibles, robustes
With
et
that, allow me to give the
efficaces sur le
floor
plan
to
des coûts. Et je
Belgium, the
voudrais
lead nation
féliciter
in this
tous les pays qui
initiative.
participent.
Minister,
Et
you
maintenant,
have the
je vais
floor.
donner la parole à la Belgique.
Thank you very much,
Merci
Ms.
beaucoup,
Deputy Secretary
Madame
General.
la
Dear
secrétaire
colleagues,
générale
the
déléguée, chers
importance of the
collègues,
document
on ne
that
peut
we're
que
going to
souligner
sign today
l'importance du
can only be
document que nous sommes sur le
underlined.
point de signer.
Land Battle
Les
Decisive
munitions
Munitions are a NATO
LBDM sont
defense
une
planning
priorité dans la
priority,
planification
and
de
individual
défense
allies
de
have an
l'OTAN. Et
individual
les alliés
capability target to
individués
meet
ont un objectif
NATO's
capacitaire
level
individuel
of ambition.
à remplir pour
Establishing a
répondre aux besoins
multinational
au
cooperation
niveau d'ambition
framework
de
will
l'OTAN.
enable the
Établir un
participating
cadre de
nations to
coopération
meet their
multinationale
requirements more
permettra aux pays
efficiently and more
participants de
effectively.
répondre aux besoins de manière plus
The
efficace
advantages
et
of
efficiente.
engaging
Les
collectively
avantages de
are
s'engager dans une initiative
These
collective
include
sont
not only
évidents.
cost saving, but
Cela
also
permet de
a better
réaliser des
provision
économies, bien
of adequate
entendu, mais cela
stockpiles,
permet de
a greater
fournir des
interchangeability
stocks
and greater
adéquats,
flexibility
une
of
meilleure
stockpile management.
interchangeabilité et une meilleure
Finally, I'm
souplesse
happy
de
that the
gestion
Belgian
des
defense is
stocks.
taking a
Et puis
leading
pour
role
conclure, je
in
suis
this
heureux
domain
que
by
la défense
establishing a
belge
multinational
joue un rôle
warehousing
de chef de file
initiative
dans ce domaine en
for certain
établissant
high-value
un
ammunition.
entrepôt multinational pour Madame la secrétaire
Thank you all
générale
for being
déléguée,
here,
merci
and a
de
very
votre
warm
présence.
good afternoon and welcome to
Bonjour
this
à
signing
tous et
ceremony for the
bienvenue à
letter
la
of intent
cérémonie de
concerning
signature pour la lettre
cooperation on
d'intention
multinational
concernant la
maritime
coopération
multi-mission
sur
aircraft capabilities,
l'aéronef maritime
which is a mouthful,
multimission.
but we also
Bon,
call it M3A. That's a little bit
c'est
easier.
un peu long comme
Let me
expression,
first
mais on l'appelle le
congratulate the
M3A.
6 allies
Pour faire plus
engaging in
court.
this effort.
Alors je voudrais tout d'abord
France,
féliciter
Germany,
les 6 alliés
Greece,
engagés dans cet
Italy,
effort, la France,
Spain, and
l'Allemagne, la
Turkey.
Grèce, l'Italie, l'Espagne et la
The
Turquie.
initiative recognizes that aspects
L'initiative
of their
reconnaît
maritime
que
aircraft
des
capabilities
aspects de
will
leur
reach the end of their
capacité
operational life
d'aéronef
between
maritime atteindra la fin
2025 and
de
2035.
leur vie
Replacements
opérationnelle
will be
entre
required
2025 et
if allies are to
2035.
maintain
Des
maritime
aéronefs de
situational
remplacement vont
awareness
être
and their ability
nécessaires
to
si les
respond
alliés veulent
effectively
maintenir
to
leur
related
connaissance de la
threats.
situation maritime
So
et
this
leur capacité
decision
à
to work
répondre
together
efficacement aux
demonstrates both
menaces.
foresight
Cette
and the
décision
willingness to
d'œuvrer
invest in the
ensemble
critical
montre
capabilities
qu'il y a
that the
une
alliance
vision
needs.
et une volonté d'investir
Defense
dans des
ministers,
capacités critiques
today's decision
dont
also
l'Alliance
proves your
a besoin.
willingness to
Mesdames
substantially
et
reinforce
messieurs les
European
ministres de la
capabilities,
Défense, la décision
contributing to
d'aujourd'hui
fairer
est la
burden sharing
preuve de votre
across the
volonté
alliance.
de renforcer
This
de manière
multinational and
significative les
cooperative approach to
capacités européennes
capabilities
de
will help
l'Alliance en
allies to
contribuant
strengthen their
à un
armed forces
partage
in a
plus équitable
cost-effective
du
way.
fardeau. Cette
So,
approche
congratulations to
capacitaire
you all.
multinationale et
I
coopérative a
cordially
aidé
invite
les
the
alliés à
6 defense
renforcer leurs forces
ministers to
armées
sign the letter of
en
intent
étant
and,
efficaces sur le plan des coûts.
I'll ask my colleague to give
Félicitations.
further instructions. Thank you.
Et je vais inviter ma collègue à vous donner des instructions.
And at the end of the row, the NATO Office of Legal Affairs will collect the originals and will provide each nation 2 certified copies later on. row, the NATO Office of Legal Affairs
Of intent, and I'll ask my.
I thank the media for your great interest in this great opening remarks. and then we continue.